How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we're going over my deck list for the King Cold deck I took to the webcam locals last Friday. And not only that, it's not just webcam locals list, it's also the list I will take to finals if I were to take this deck and didn't have my deck sorted for finals. Because I feel like this could be a very good pick, and it could be very good against the top decks, but it just has a problem when it goes second, like most decks in the format that aren't the big two. And is also probably the best green deck in the format, and just gets better, especially when we get further on, and especially with the new set coming out, we get some nice new things with that. But before we do get in the list and go over it, do feel free to like the video if you do enjoy my content or these kind of videos. Also comment down below if there's anything you want to comment, and also subscribe if you're not already. It keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and even by clicking the notification bell you get alerts to when my videos do drop, so you're aware. And also it helps you get to my goal of 1,000 subs, which is currently halfway there. And also you can check out my giveaway, because we just hit 500, to find out what well, maybe in a chance to win the giveaway, and also to find out what I'm going to be doing when I do get to my final goal of 1,000 subs. So have a check out of that. But without further ado, let's go in the video and check out the list. So King Cold, the best green leader in the game, and one of the more interesting ones as well, because green is one of those colours, well, the colour in the game that has all like the gimmicks and the little ideas test out, which leads to some terrible decks and some interesting decks. And King Cold is one of the more stronger, interesting decks, because it's all about like playing with field cards. It's all around field cards and stuff like that to gain advantage and get your draw and stuff like that, and just a interesting concept. And it came out like a good while ago, but it's one of those decks where it just gets better and better and better as sets go on. Some formats it could be quite bad in, some formats it could be quite good in, and this format seems to be the latter. And it's quite a nice leader as well. There's also the King Cold that's is from the Broly movie, not the King Cold from the Dragon Ball Z anime, because it's one of those things. It's same because I think it was the opposite to the King Cold, the King Vegeta deck in the same decks. It was red against green in that one with the leaders and stuff. And it's quite a good one as well. It's got a nice little. So we'll start with the leader first. It's got a nice little extra, nice little permanent, which basically means that you, when activating a field card with a cost 2, that's green, you reduce energy cost by 1, so you're making all your field cards in your deck that you can play, that you don't start off with, into 1 drops, which is very nice. So it makes it cheaper to play to get your draw power and stuff, because that's how you're going to be drawing cards in the deck, using these field cards to gain value. And not only that, but on the front side it also has an auto where when you start the game you start off with a field card in play, which is King Cold's Dynasty, a nice little 6-drop that has barrier that allows you to play more field cards. Because normally when you have play field cards in a deck, if you would have a field card on play, when you play a new one it replaces the old one, because you can only have 1 on board at a time. But this allows you to have multiple, which we'll go in more detail than that when we get to the card. And also, as well as that, we also have a Never Auto, which allows you to gain advantage, and that is almost the same on both sides. Essentially, when you play a field card, or when you play a green field card, that's an energy cost of 2. On the front side, you add up to 1 card from your hand, from your life to your hand, then draw 1 card, and on your awakened side, you just draw a card. So on the unawakened side, it adds to getting to your flipping over to awakening, because your awaken on this card is just when you last 4 or less to awaken. And luckily, it also is a kind of awakening we haven't seen in a while for not many decks, which is go down to 4 life and then untap 2, flip over. So it's untap 2 awaken, which is pretty nice. And when you flip over, as I said, you keep the same permanent. You have the same kind of auto, just you don't take a life anymore. But now you actually have a really nice activate battle, which is once per turn you can sack off 1 of your green fill cards with the cost 2, and gain 10k power for the battle. Now you can use that offensively or defensively. Either way, it's really nice, especially offensively. Being 25k is a sweet spot, and defending for a free 10k is really nice. And it also allows you to, it's one way to allow you to replay some fields, because with the 6-drop now we're going to go over, it's got a massive amount of text, which has the field skill, like the field tag listed on it 6 times, 1 for itself, and 5 other times in the text. It basically explains what it's doing. But in layman's terms, it basically says, while this card is on board, you can play as many field cards that are cost 2 and green as you want on the board without losing any field cards. Because I said when you normally play a field card, replace the old one. Well, this means that it doesn't, as long so you can have as many as you want on board. But the ever permanent on it as well, because it's got 2, makes it so you can't play a field card that's already on board unless that one already on board is gone. So you need to get rid of the one you have on board first before you can play another one of the same copy. So it allows you to not just play out multiple of the same one, you have to actually strategize to get rid of some. And that's basically it. So it's got barrier as well, so it's hard to remove because it's the key part to your strategy, and there's not many cards that actually remove it, which is a good thing for this deck. So that is the basis of it. So it's a green lead that requires the use of field cards to get the draw power, and luckily the field cards we do play and are for the archetype are very nice in the fact that they gain you advantage some way, shape or form, and they have draw cards or do some really strong things. And start off with one of the best ones, we have 4 copies of a new ruler. This is one of the main ways you gain advantage, and also help you awaken as soon as possible, because you normally want to awaken turn 2 to have that, because you don't want to awaken turn 1, because one thing is you can't really unless you get aggroed down, but then it comes to your turn, you go to turn 2 anyway, as long as you're going first. But as well as that, turn 2 allows you to get that full use of the untap 2 and do some nice things with that 4 energy on your second turn. And this one's a really nice one because most of the field cards as well go towards you self-awakening, not just by the leader's effect, be able to take a life and draw a card when you play a field once per turn, but also they got some ways to take life themselves. And with New Ruler, he has, like most of them do, they have 2 effects. Most of them have 2 autos, whereas one has a permanent instead of an auto. And New Ruler 1, this reads as: when this card is placed in your battle area, you add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then look up to the top 3 cards of your deck, up to the top 3 cards of your deck, add up to 1 mono green card among them to your hand, and place the rest at the bottom of your deck. So you're never going to whiff off this because you only play 1 card in your deck that is not mono green, and yeah, so you can use this to help take a life as well, to awaken as quick as possible. So you're ready by turn 2 to flip over. And also it just cycles through your deck, because it's look at the top 3. You can choose up to as well, which is relevant because you can look up to 0, 1, 2 or 3 of the top cards of your deck, and mainly always going to go for at least 1. And that's relevant because it bottom decks the rest of them. So if you see like 2 super combos in it, you can take one, but the other one's going to go bottom of your decks. That's why you might want to not look at the full 3. But a nice little way of going through your deck to try and find, see every card in your deck, which is nice, which is actually a good benefit. And it also has an effect for when it's removed from the battle area by your skills, with a second auto, where it's placed in the drop area from your battle area by one of your skills. Draw a card, then you choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. So essentially filter through and replace a card in your hand just to see more things. And as well as that, we have the next field card, which is my personal favourite, and I feel the strongest one. Like most people will say that probably a New Ruler is the strongest field card at the deck, but I feel like the next one is the strongest in my opinion, and that is Anticipate Onslaught. This is a really nice one, and it helps you establish a board for cheap as well. So its first auto is if your leader card is a Green King Cold PR card. When this card is played in the battle area, you draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 mono green Freezer clan or Freezer army card with entry cost of 2 or less in your hand and play it. Now there's 2 really good targets in this deck that you're gonna play from this, and one is a nice little consistency piece to keep the flow running, keep the draw power going, and the other one is your nice little threat that you're gonna be able to spam out and help you cycle as well. So this is one of my favourite things, and it's a nice one where if you don't want to be aggroed down turn 1 but still get some advantage, because like with New Ruler it takes a life and then looks at top 3 to gain full value, whereas this one just draws up a card straight away, so you can get the draw. If you don't want to go down to too low a life on turn 1 by playing the field to get the full value, you can play this turn 1 to basically just get 2 draws and take 1 life and potentially play something out. And it has a second auto, and it's a quite nice one to help you with removal. And it reads as: once per turn, When a green extra card with a filled skill in your battle area other than this card is placed in its drop area by one of your skills, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with entry cost of 2 or less and KO it. So that gives you a nice little bit of removal on some things. So your opponents saw little cantrips that they want there for beneficial effects. You can use this to pop them as well, and if your opponent doesn't sequence right, you can punish them with that effect as well. But it's mainly the first also allowing you to draw a card and also play out something 2 or less, which helps you establish a nice little board to get some powerful plays. Then next we have probably the least great, well nowadays, of the fill cards. Now it's Unstoppable Invasion. It is still a good fill card, not the best though, but it does have its good use, like most of them do. And this one doesn't really gain any advantage really, but it is a nice little bit of like pressure and also a little bit of control. In its first auto, it's if your leader is this lead. When this card is played in the battle area, you can add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, so never a card that allows you to take a life to help awaken quicker. And then one of your leader cards gets 10k power and double strike for the turn. So essentially, this is like a built-in champer for the deck, putting an extra 10k on your lead, not combo power but actual power on the lead, and give it double strike for the turn as well. So this makes it more telegraphed than if you were to champer during a combat, but it's still very powerful. And then it's got a nice little thing to help interact with unisons, where when this card would be placed in your battle area by its owner's drop area by one of your skills for a second auto, you choose it to one of your opponent's unison cards and remove a marker from it. So it's got a nice little thing that green has in regards to interacting with unisons in removing markers. And that is it for that fill card. I'm going to play 2 of them because it doesn't actually gain you inherent value apart from like taking a life or giving power to your lead, apart from triggering the lead's effect the draw. It is not the best, so we just play 2 copies to find it when we need it and use it, because you can always recycle some of these fill cards as well. The next one and the last one we have for the fill cards is 3 copies of Terrified Realization. Now this is the one that doesn't have 2 autos as a permanent instead of one of the autos, and that permanent is if you have 4 or more extra cards in your battle area with the filled skill. Your green Freezer Clan battle cards with gain 5k power for your turn. So during your turn, well, you got this card and 3 other fill cards on board, which you normally start find at the beginning of the game. You get a 5k boost to your Freezer Clan, green Freezer Clan cards. It's really good, turning any 15ks into 20ks, well, 10s into 15s, 15s into 20, and then 20s into 25 is quite nice. Especially they give like the entire board essentially a 5k boost is pretty good. And it's got a nice little auto, which when this guy's placed in the battle area, you can add it to 1 card from your life to your hand and then draw a card, so extra draw power to kind of have a decent hand size. So those are the fill cards we normally we all play. There is another one, I think it was a promo one, that isn't the greatest, revolving around playing Broly BR cards, so we play that, but these are the ones that mainly came in a set that are really good, and I'm happy with this ratio, having a nice 13 fill cards. That's it for the fill cards. Then we go on to the Unison package, having 4 of the Unison, and this is a great Unison for this deck because it allows you to free play out some fill cards to keep your draw power going without using energy. And while it does have 3 skills, you're only going to be using 2 of them, being the top one and the bottom one. The top one is how you gain advantage because it's +1 is choose up to 1 of your green extra cards with entry cost of 2 or less and the fill skill in your hand and activate it. So you get to activate a fill card from your hand for free. So triggering the draw on your lead, not using up energy, so you can use that energy for ever plays. And well, we might as well go for the middle one because it can come up in niche situations, and it's a -1. Your opponent chooses one of their battle cards with entry cost of 5 or less and kill it. So they get the annoying thing is they get to choose it, and it's only 5 or less, not 6 or less. So it's not the greatest. But the bigger skill and the skill most people are going to be swinging into this card to avoid having used is the -3, which is an activate battle instead of activate main like the other 2. And it reads as this card gets triple strike and 5k power for each extra card in your battle area with a fill skill for the turn. So if you got all 5 of these fill cards out, then this card is becoming a 40k triple strike on its swing, and when it's activate battle you can swing with it, and if they don't negate you can go ahead and use it, and if they do negate this attack you can then go, okay, I'm going to go ahead and use the +1 instead. So it's a nice little way to force things out, force negates out with this, or if it goes through, put a lot of pressure on. So we play a full 4 copies. And with any using package you can't forget the free counter plays, which is in green's case the charismatic, with this one being like the rest of them in set 10, free to play if you have free to use the counter play skill if you have a unison of the same colour with 2 markers on it, and this one's counterplay effect just play itself. And this is nice because it gets around deflect on most cards. Well, yeah, it gets around deflect on cards, to unlike most counters where the effect to do something great is not in the counterplay, it's in the auto. And its autos when it's played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 7 or less and KO it. So nice little bit there. So we play 4 copies of it because if you can get the unison out and stick, defend it, which you can do quite well in this deck, you can have this around, and it's just one of those things that the earlier you get it down, the scarier it is for your opponent when they want to try and play something. And then we have a nice little way to, like, kind of part of the unison package, but kind of like main engine, and it is 4 copies of Berry Blue. So this is a nice little searcher that you can play off the anticipated onslaught as well, and also allows you to keep consistency by locating your unison and or fill cards. Because through its auto is when this guy's played, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, add up to 1 green unison card with a specified cost of 2, or up to 1 green extra card with field skill among them to your hand and shuffle your deck. So essentially a searcher, and being top 7 is a lot better than 5 and 3. It allows you to look at like a wider array of cards from your deck and a larger part of your deck to be able to find something useful, and you're very rarely going to whiff off this because you look at so many cards and you have so many targets that you shouldn't be whiffing. If you do, you're just going to be very unlucky. And it also allows you to reuse your field cards if you do sack any off by its activate main, which is once per turn by paying 1 green. If your leader card is this lead, and you can basically then choose 1 mono green extra card in your drop area with a field skill and activate it. So you can sack off a field card for the leader's effect to gain 10k for a battle, then use Berry Blue to replay it to get the draw on leader for the first one you play for the turn and get their effects again. So it's really nice. And some of these effects you want to use multiple times just to basically, like with Unstoppable Invasion, you want to use that turn over turn to keep applying because pressure your lead, and through Berry Blue you can do that. And to go with that as well, we do have the super combo of the deck being the Paragus. Best super combo in green, because unlike most super combos, it allows you to draw the 2 first, then choose what you're going to get rid of, which is a lot more beneficial than most of the ones that every colour's got, where you bottom deck 1 and then draw the 2. So with the other ones, you can potentially draw into dead cards off that, and that would suck. But Paragus, you can draw and see if you draw into any dead cards first, then sack off whatever card is not as useful in your hand. And it comes in handy for another card we'll see in a sec. And they go with the package, well, most of the stuff that came with the deck in the set that it was released. We have 4 copies of Caller, the Effortless Strike, the counterplay for the lead. And this is a really nice one because it can be reduced down to 1, basically by just playing this strategy. And that's for its permanent, where during your opponent's turn, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1 for each green extra card in your battle area and it will drop. So just by playing your strategy to draw cards, by playing out the field cards, you reduce the cost in this to make it very useful to help be defensively, to stop things coming in. Because its counterplay is play this card, and then if the battle card being played is energy cost 4 or less, it's put in the drop area instead of being played, so you can stop things 4 or less from coming into play very nicely for 1 energy, and then stabbing yourself for 15k. And also, if your opponent's got a decent hand size, or quite a large hand size, you then get punish them for that as well. So not only you stop them from coming in, but you get to punish them a little bit more. Through its auto, where when this card is played, if your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, they choose 1 card in hand and discard it. So not only do you stop something from coming hitting the board and disrupting their strategy that they've just paid energy for, but you also make them lose another card in hand, essentially making them lose 2 cards while you establish a 15k for 1 energy. It's very, very nice. And it depends on formats and against certain matchups. This card is sometimes one of the main cards you'd be siding, because against some decks it's amazing, against other decks it could be absolutely useless. But we like to put 4 copies in the main because it's better to have it for when it's amazing and inside out for where it's not. And then one of the newer cards we got is the Champion promo, which is King Cold Transfer Power. This is a really nice card we've got. And before that, it's got a similar permanent as the Freezers do from the set where this card deck came out of, where for every 2 green extra cards that are in your battle area and or drop, you reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So by having a total of 4, which you always start off with 1, in your battle area and or drop, you reduce this by 1 for each 2. So just by having 4 about in your battle area and drop, you reduce this by 2, and it can't go further than that because you still got to pay the specified cost, because it doesn't lower the specified cost. and it's a 20k 4-drop crit that once again can be reduced down to 2. So by reducing it down to 2, you can play off Anticipated Onslaught, and it's got a really nice activate main to help you recycle your field cards to actually play more. So if you've got multiple of the same one, this is a nice way to allow you to reuse it, and that is by sacking off one of your green field extras, where energy costs 2 in your battle area, and then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards to KO it. Then you get to choose one green field extra card with energy cost of 2 or less when you drop, and charge it to your Z energy. So it's a nice way to charge Z energy, because outside of using Paragus as a combo, most of the cards in not much of your deck you're going to be using as combo. You're normally powering up things for whatever means, instead of actually comboing in this deck. So this is a nice way to mitigate the lack of comboing, to still charge the energy to make use of your the Z mechanic, which is a big thing now that we're into the Zenkai series. And it's a nice way to help do a bit of spam with this as well, spam at quite a few of them, because where you can play this off Anticipated Onslaught and recycle field cards for Berry Blue, this is really nice in that you can play Anticipated Onslaught to draw a card, draw one from lead as well if it's the first field card you played, play out this card if you've got 4 more field cards in play to reduce its cost. Then you can swing, then if you've got Terrified Realization in play as well, with 3 other field cards, which you should have really to have the cost of King Cold reduced. You can play this out as a 25k crit, swing with it to put some pressure, and then after that, after the attack's gone through, either being out comboed or taken, or blocked, or negated, you can then use the activate main to sack off the Anticipated Onslaught to basically just pop stuffing, or just to get rid of the Anticipated Onslaught. Then use Berry Blue, or just play another Anticipated Onslaught from your hand, to then get the draw, and then play on Never King Cold, and just keep putting pressure that way. Build up a board for cheap, while also getting the draw for your lead as well. And it's really nice because crit pressure is a lot better than what everyone's had, because this one essentially replaces the old freezer that has dual attack, because dual attack you can get 2 attacks in, but I'd rather have critical for pressure by being able to swing through on a lead and deny them resources, which the Ever Freezer wouldn't do. And the Ever Freezer also had the same kind of skill, still had a skill as well to sacrifice field cards to make use of them, but it was a defensive skill that you had no control of, that you had less control over than this card does. So this one is a nice little replacement of a Freezer, and a bit better pressure in having some critical pressure. And then I was playing one copy of Son Goku Spirit Bomb Unleashed. This is a nice card to help, it was a nice card to help finish off Unisons. It just requires to go to free and choose activate main to play it. So you have to get 3 more energy and pay 1 green to be able to play it out, to then play out a nice little 15k and then sack off a marker from your opponent's Unison. But with upcoming cards, it's going to be sacked off, so I'm not really going to go over this. It's just, this was one I'm playing, and this is immediately going to come out for some of the Gohan rare for green we get in set 19. So not really going to talk about this card. But one of my new nice additions we got from the Zenkai series, and that really every green deck got, is the new Fated Rivals, which in this deck we play just the Son Goku Fated Rivals, because space is quite tight for this deck, and even though the Piccolo is very, very nice, all I really care about from their combination is the barrier removal, and the Goku's good enough just to play on its own. So I play a nice 3 copies of the Son Goku Fated Rival, because it's just really good barrier removal in the fact it only costs 2, and your opponent has to get to 3 or more energy to be able to play this, but that's fair enough. Because it's just 2 cost barrier removal that gives you also a 30k barrier double striker. So that's a nice bit of removal on a nice little threat that's got a bit of protection to it. And not only that, but it allows you to technically have more super combos than you're allowed, because part of his activate main is, as well as paying 2 and your opponent have 3 more energy, is to place one of your Saiyan, Earthling or Namekian cards that are green from your Z energy at the bottom of your deck to play it out. And wouldn't you know that your super combo you're playing in Paragus is a green Saiyan card? So essentially, by comboing off of Paragus, just to put some pressure on to defend yourself, you can then Z charge it at the end of the battle. So charge the Paragus super combo to your Z energy, and then it's there to put back in the bottom of your deck for this Goku to play out for some barrier removal or just a nice little threat. And then if you can shuffle your deck with, say, something like Berry Blue, you can then draw back in your super combo, so you technically are playing 5 or up to 5 to 7 super combos, which is more than most decks do. Most decks only have 4. You could potentially have yourself 7 up to 5 to 7 extra super combos, not extra super combos, but super combos, which is more than most decks do get. Will also be in a nice little card. So pay a nice little free copies of this because it's just very good barrier removal, and you might be able to even play it multiple times because it's quite cheap for a green card especially, and a very powerful card indeed. And then next card we go to is the secret rare. Now green has quite a few good secret rares. It has the counter one to help push pressure, which is really good when if you focus on trying to kill with the unison. You also have the we also have the boo as well, that acts like a pseudo hatch by paying 2 to play it out, activate battle, main / battle, be able to stop battle card swings for the turn, to be a bit of defense, and also just being a 2-drop 40k double strike whenever you need it. That can also steal your opponent's unison by sacking off yours. It's got 2 by spirit boosting 2. And we're getting soon the Cell Max, which is probably going to be the one I'm going to upgrade the current secret rare to when we get the new set. But for now, I am playing the secret rare choice being Great Ape Mass Saiyan Primal Carnage, because this is just a really nice one. Because one of the things that is really strong in this format is, especially in red, is having their triple striker backed up by an all-melee resistance to push through and not really being able to do anything about it. Because where things like Sin, they can remove blockers but just minus them out of the way, just get rid of them, and then drop a triple striker down for next to nothing, and then swing it back it up with a counter that's quite cheap in regards to just paying 2 energy and discarding yellow card to then push through a triple striker to finish off the game when you're at 3 life. And yeah, that is not something I really want to deal with, so I chose to use this secret rare because it's just a nice way to deal with that, and also just a great way to deal with most swings if your opponent feels safe, because sometimes people might want to go in on you with a certain swing as long as it's not a lead, and just put everything in the try and overpower you and try to push it through. And this is a nice way where if it's a battle card, just to go, nah, that's it, just pay 1, combo it, remove your battle area to KO the card. Because it's also as if your leader is a mono green card and you remove this card from your combo from the game. When this card is using the combo, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, and barrier and KO it. That's just the main thing I used to use it for. This is a nice little secret rare, because where there's so many options, people don't know exactly what secret rare is being used in green, because there's quite a few decent options. And when someone's trying to go all in with a multiple strike card to try and push through game, you can just have the 1 energy open, combo this, remove from your combo area, and pop that card and just put it into that swing and then clap them back the next turn. But this will most likely be switched out for Cell Max, because that's just a 1-drop because that's going to be a 1-drop quadruple strike to help finish off games. That can also allow you to only need to get your opponent down to 1, then use its auto to try and pop that last life of theirs without actually needing to attack. And then we have the Overwhelm. Like, this deck is this as I said, there's only 1 card in this deck that's not mono green, and that's our Overwhelm. And I've gone for a Feigned Greeting because it's just nice free Overwhelm. Green is one of those colors that most things cost more than most other colors try to do. So green is quite a costly color in that you have to be very careful and very aware of how you're using energy, using it wisely, and playing a Overwhelm, that has a cost to it to play it out is not great. So I've decided to stick with one that you can play for free, and probably one of the best ones you can get is Feigned Greeting. There's a few good ones that you can play Overwhelms. I like Feigned Greeting because I don't really feel like I need the Dark Broly one, because for one, it doesn't have any combo power, which isn't great if I want to use it defensively to just combo out of attack. And it's got the same stats as Feigned Greeting, and also it's more for board removal, which I have enough in this deck, especially in green. I don't need to worry about board removal because I have it built in, and I can do it fairly well with this deck. So Dark Broly isn't a great choice in my opinion for it, so I went with Feigned Greeting because it does the same as Dark Broly, comes down for free, using Overwhelm 6, just needing 6 cards in my drop, and being 30k beat stick. But this had the added benefit of where I don't need board removal, I go on for a bit of hand control, and this card is a nice one in that when you overwhelm it, your opponent chooses one card in your hand, adds it to the warp, which means if your opponent's running a low on hand size defending, you can use this to like cut even more into the resources to help defend himself and push through a nice 30k swing as well to add that extra pressure. And that leads us to come to our last few cards, being the last few extra cards in the deck. And the first one is our free built-in negate for this deck, and that is Rule Supremacy. So this is one that came with the archetype, and it's just a counter attack for 2. Negate the attack and choose up to any number of your opponent's battle cards whose total energy cost out to 3 or less, and KO them. So this is a nice one in that could hit all your opponent's tokens, which is a benefit that mostly green has, and also just negate something while killing something as well. So you can potentially stop 2 attacks with this by negating 1 attack and then popping something else that could potentially attack after. And in this form, especially against like things like Red Sin, be able to negate a swing and then pop their new over, or one of their little cantrips they put on board, is really nice. And this can be played for free as well with its permanent by if you have 3 or more green extra cards with the field skill in your battle area, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying the energy costs. So as soon as you get to turn 2 really, and you play your second field card, this is live because remember you start off with King Cold's Dynasty, you're going to play a field card turn 1 to get the draw power for your lead to keep your hand up and help go to Self Awakening, and then play a second one on your turn 2, and then you got the 3 on board to play as a free. So easy peasy, and that's why you got to be aware of how many field cards you have before using Lead's effect. If you want to use this, as well, you got to be very, very wary of how you're sequencing using Lead's effect to this negate as well. Then the last 2 cards we have, being the last 2 extra cards, being 2 copies of Helmstyle Clones. Every color's got token negates now, and every deck should be running token negates. And we run a good, nice 2 copies of Homicide Clones because we push ourselves down to 4, so we can't play too many before like going too low down on life. And we've also already got Rule Supremacy at 4, being a free negate and a strong, and we just got an extra 2 copies of this card that have a little bit extra defense. And this is nice because it's one of the 3 out of the 5 token negates that has a token that has combo power. So if you don't use it as a blocker in the same turn, you can use it to combo off for an attack in the next turn or any turn after that. And it's just nice where it negates the attack, then plays a blocker that can then defend another attack. So a lot better than most other negates. And it's played for free by just taking a life instead of paying any cost when your life is at 5 or less, which you can easily get to in this deck. So that is the main deck, and that is it. So the main thing I liked about this is that Call is a good counterplay for the format, going against stopping the 4-drop in Sin and then playing the 4-drop of the lead to stifle their draw from 3 cards down to just drawing 1 and potentially drawing nothing. Because if they got a large hand size when they do that, they draw a card from the leader, decide not to play out a 4-drop, and then if they got 8 or more, they discard a card, so they technically draw nothing off the lead, what you've established 15k, and stifled their draw, which is really nice. And it just has nice text, and probably when it comes to the next format, I will be dropping the Son Goku Spirit Bomb Unleashed from the deck, and maybe another card to put in 2 copies of the Son Gohan rare, because that's a nice way to extra just not care about unisons, be able to just charge that to use the energy and pay green to wipe off 3 markers for unison, making it a lot easier when it's up on invasion, be able to remove 4 markers a turn from a unison, which is really nice. And then you can even recycle it with the Goku Fated Rival, since it is a Saiyan, to put it back in to reuse it as well. So maybe even just put 1 copy in, but I'd rather just, because it can be searchable off a new rule as well, and you can draw quite a bit. So maybe put in just 1 copy so Spirit Bomb Unleashed, or even try and make use of putting in a second somewhere. But that's the main list, and the Z deck as well. Currently, I've only got 4 copies of Frieza because green doesn't have many generic Z battle cards. So we've just got 4 Frieza for if we need to use it. Some Vegetas if we ever need to take down life, just if we never need to, we'll just get more cards. And I was just running 1 SS4 Vegeta just to, once again, be able to have a look at any point in my Z deck to see what the requirements are for them to drop it if I go against the deck. Because I already understand about Sim, but because it requires 7, but sometimes I do forget about the Gogeta, so I'll check on that. And then with my side deck as well, I do have a simple side deck that could change as well when it comes to it, and that is currently 3 Bardock Paternal Unison, This is just all like hinder any Z mechanic, like because it's got that auto where if your opponent combos your player's turn, you can rip a card from the combo and then negate the skill for the turn, so you can just like hinder people's ability to try and Z charge, while also making it harder for your opponent to try and combo attacks, because if they have to combo more than need be while you're also aggroing down, they're going to be losing hand. And also as a nice little +1, also sack for your barrier blue, or if you side in this Vegeta, to make them discard more cards and just easy +1. And let's just get a bit more hand control if you want to go that route as well, because you can side a bit into that. Then we got 3 Vegetas to help hate on blue, because D-Magic in blue, because I just hate blue. And then we got the Kaioken Son Goku the Furious, and at 2 copies, and some Fusamasu Deity's Wrath in 2 copies as well, because you could run Ribrian. I don't know if people try to run Ribrian in the side deck for this side into a little bit of hand control, but Ribrian's not as great anymore now we've got these two, because Ribrian is just a card you need to get in your drop somehow by comboing or discarding it, which unless it's proving useful, it's not the greatest, because you're losing a card from hand to do that, unless you're getting a good benefit off of the discard or by the combo. And then it just basically taps 2, only works with green, and it needs to tap 2, discard 2. Now that's not as great. 2 for 2 is not the best exchange. It's just even. You're paying 2 energy to discard 2 cards. It is still not too bad, but it's not as good as these two, because with this combination you can technically rip 3 cards from hand. I finally figured out a number of them. 3 cards from hand, because when Kaioken Goku comes out, so basically you need to have 3 or more mono blue energy, so it comes down on turn 3. Also mono green energy, because he comes down on turn 3 by paying 1 green. And when he comes out, his auto triggers to make your opponent discard 1. So you discard 1 from that for 1 energy to make him discard. Then you're going to swing with the Kaioken to the lead at 15k crit. Most leaders are 15k, so you're going to be making that equal level. And if you just leave that 15, it's critical as well, so they're going to not want to lose that life to a critical swing, especially at 15k when they can just combo one attack, one swing. So they're going to go ahead and combo on that swing. So that's a never card out of their hand. They may charge it to his energy, that's fair enough, but you've ripped a never card out of their hand that they might not have wanted to lose from their hand. So that's 2 for 1 energy. And then you sack off the Kaioken for the Fusamasu, because you're at 3 energy. You got to meet the requirements when you can play Kaioken, and Kaioken itself meets the requirements for Zamasu to play itself for its activate main. And then you swing with the Zamasu and make them discard again through its auto when it's actually discard 1. So that's for 2 energy, 1 to play the Goku and swing with it, and 1 to play Zamasu by sacking off the Goku. You've made them discard 3 cards, and then you establish the Zamasu. That's hard to remove from the board unless you're playing red or against yellow, like red that can negate it down to 0, and yellow that can negate your skills, then KO it. And it's going to stick around there for ages and never be removed. And the longer it stays there, the more value, and it's still part of that 2 energy you had in that turn before to make a discard. So the longer it stays on there and gets used, the more cards you discard, and still for that 2 energy. So it's a lot more valuable. So we've had those 2 copies in, because then you can always side out the cooler as well if it's not as needed for those 2, or easy enough to side. Then we got 2 focus breakthrough to deal with any floodgates. So most of the floodgates, the only floodgate you can't really deal with is Vegeta Ready Rumble. So yeah, we just have to just hold off a turn if they drop that against blue, but then you're normally going to hate on blue and aggress them as much as you can before they even get the 4 energy as well. And then we have 3 copies of Cells, Earth Destroying Kamehameha. This to help against things like Sin, which I was potentially looking to side the main, but then it just takes from the main list really, and you can just hope and pray against most things. This is why I wasn't really taking it to the finals, because it has that little issue with going turn 2 against Sin. But any other deck, it's normally fine, and it's nice one to help combo out a little bit easier, and also while ripping cards from your hand that your opponent doesn't have control of, because you get the they randomize the hand, and you pick a card from the hand and rip it from them. And a nice little 15k as well to add to that, so extra power on swings, aggressively, offensively or defensively, but also random rips as well. And that's the side, and that's the main and everything. So if you're looking to take King Kong to finals, here is my list that I would take to finals. So if you wanted something to have a look at, this is it. And that's it for today. So thank you for watching. Hope you like the video. And if you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one later in the week. Bye for now.